Good wishes to all of you. Textbook in history for class 11. Themes in world history. Theme 11. Paths to modernization. Audiobook. East Asia at the beginning of the 19th century was dominated by China. The Qing dynasty, heir to a long tradition, seemed secure its power, while Japan, a small island country, seemed to be locked in isolation. Yet within a few decades, China was thrown into turmoil, unable to face the colonial challenge. The imperial government lost political control, was unable to reform effectively, and the country was con- convulsed by civil war. Japan, on the other hand, was successful in building a modern nation state, creating an industrial economy, and even establishing a colonial empire by incorporating Taiwan 1895 and Korea 1910. It defeated China, the land that had been the sources of its culture and ideals, in 1894, and Russia, a European power, in 1905. The Chinese reacted slowly and faced immense difficulties as they sought to redefine their traditions to cope with the modern world and to rebuild their nation, national strength, and became free from Western and Japanese control. They found that they could achieve both the objectives of removing inequalities and of rebuilding their country through revolution. The Chinese Communist Party emerged victorious from the Civil War in 1949. However, by the end of the 1970s, Chinese leaders felt that the ideological system was retarding economic growth and development. This led to wide ranging reforms of the economy that brought back capitalism and the free market even as the Communist Party retained political control. Japan became an advanced industrial nation, but its drive for empire led to war and defeat at the hands of the Anglo American forces. The US occupation marked the beginning of a more democratic political system, and Japan rebuilt its economy to emerge by the 1970s as a major economic power. The Japanese path to modernization was built on capitalist principles and took place within a world dominated by Western colonialism. Japanese expansion was justified by the call to resist Western domination and liberate Asia. The rapid development underlined the strength of a tradition in Japanese insti- institutions and society, their ability to learn, and the strength of nationalism. China and Japan have had a long tradition of historical writings, as history was an important guide for the rulers. The past provided the standards by which they would be judged, and the rulers established official departments to maintain records and write dynastic histories. Sima Quan 145 to 90 BC is considered the greatest historian of early China in Japan. Chinese culture influence led to history being given a similar importance. One of the earliest acts of the Meiji government was to establish in 1869 a bureau to collect records and write, as it were a victorious version of the Meiji restoration. There was great respect for the written word, and literary ability was highly valued. This, this has mean this has meant that a wide range of written materials, official histories, scholarly writings, popular literature, religious tracts are available. Printing and publishing were important industries in the pre-modern period, and it is possible, for instance, to trace the distribution of a book in 18th century China or Japan. Modern scholars have used these materials in new and different ways. Modern scholarship has built on the work of Chinese intellectuals such as Ling Qiak, or Kume Konaitek, 1839 to 1931, one of the pioneers of modern history in Japan, as well as earlier writings by European travelers such as the Italian Marco Polo, 1254 to 1324, in China from 1274 to 1290. The Jesuit priests Matteo Ricci, 1552 to 1610, in China, and Louis Frois, 1532 to 1797, in Japan, all of whom left rich accounts of these countries. It has also benefited from the writings of Christian missionaries in the 19th century whose work provides a valuable material for our understanding of these countries. Scholarship in English from Joseph Needham's monumental work on the history of science in Chinese civilization or George Sansom's on Japanese history and culture has grown, and there is an immense body of sophisticated scholarship available to us today. The recent years' writings by Chinese and Japanese scholars have been translated into English, some of whom teach abroad and write in English. And in the case of Chinese scholars, since the 1980s, many have been working in Japan as well and write in Japanese. This has meant that we have scholarly writings from many parts of the globe that give us a richer and deeper picture of these countries. In Japan, the surname is written first, Naito Konen, 1866 to 1934. In leading Japanese scholar of China, Naito Koner's writings influential scholars worldwide using the new tools of Western historiography. Naito built on a long tradition of studying China as well as bringing his experience as a journalist there. He helped establish the Department of Oriental Studies in Kyoto University in 1907. In Shinaron on China 1914, he argued that Republican government offered the Chinese a way to end aristocratic control and centralized power that had existed since the Sung Dynasty 962-1279, a way to revitalize local society where reform must begin. He saw in Chinese history strengths that would make it modern and democratic. Japan, he thought, had an important role to play in China, but he underestimated the power of Chinese nationalism. Take a look at map 1, East Asia. Introduction. China and Japan present a marked physical contrast. China is a vast continent country that spans many climatic zones. The core is dominated by three major river systems: the Yellow River, Huanghe, the Yangtze River, Changjing, the third longest river in the world, and the Pearl River. A large part of the country is mountains. The dominant ethnic group are the Han, and the major language is Chinese Potongkia, but there are many other nationalities such as the Uyghur, Hui, Manchu, and Tibetan, and aside from dialects such as Cantons, Yuk, Yu, and Sanghainsin View. There are other minority languages spoken as well. Chinese food reflects this regional diversity with at least four distinct types. The best known is Southern or Canton's cuisine, as most overseas Chinese comes from the Canton area, which includes the dim sum, literally touch your heart as an assortment of pastries and dumplings in the north wheat is the staple food, while in Swajan species brought by Buddhist monks in the ancient period along the Silk Road and chilies by Portuguese traders in the 15th century have created a fiery cuisine in eastern China. Both rice and wheat are eaten. Printing was done with wood blocks. The Japanese did not like the regularity of European printing. Japan, by contrast, is a string of islands, the four largest being Honshu, Kyushu, Shikoku, and Hokkaido. The Okinawan chain is the southernmost, about the same latitude as the Bahamas. More than 50% of the land area of the main islands is mountainous, and Japan is situated a very active earthquake zone. These geographical conditions have influenced architecture. The population is largely Japanese, but there are a small Ainu minority and Koreans who were forcibly brought as labor when Korea was a Japanese colony. Japan lacks a tradition of animal rearing. Rice is the staple crop, and fish the major source of protein. Raw fish, sashimi or sushi, has now become a widely popular dish around the world as it is considered very healthy. Japan. The political system. An emperor had ruled Japan from Kyoto, but by the 12th century the imperial court lost power to shoguns who in theory ruled in the name of the emperor. From 1603 to 1867, members of the Tokugawa family held the position of shogun. The country was divided into over 250 dominions under the rule of lords called daimyo. The shogun exercised power over the dominions lords, ordering them to stay at the capital Edo, modern Tokyo, for long periods so that they would not pose a threat. He also controlled the major cities and mines. The samurai, the various class, were the ruling elite and served the shoguns and daimyo. In the late 16th century, three changes laid the pattern for future development. On the one, the peasantry was disabled and only the samurai could carry swords. This ensured peace and order, ending the frequent wars of the previous century. To the daimyo were ordered to live in the capitals of their domains, each with a large degree of autonomy. Third, land surveys identified owners and taxpayers and graded land productivity to ensure a stable revenue base. The daimyo's capital became bigger so that by the mid 17th century, Japan not only had the most populated city in the world, Edo, but also two other large cities, Os- Osaka and Kyoto, and at least half a dozen castle towns with population of over 50,000. By contrast, most European countries of the time had only one large city. This led to the growth of a commercial economy and created financial and credit systems. A person's merit began to be more valued than his status. A vibrant culture blossomed in the town where the fast growing class of merchants patronized theaters and the arts. As people enjoyed reading, it became possible for gifted writers to earn a living solely by writing. In Edo, people could rent a book for the price of a bowl of noodles. This shows how popular readings had become and gives a glimpse into the scale of printing. Nishinchi is a quarter in Kyoto. In the 16th century, it had a weavers' guild of 31 households, and by the end of the 17th century, the community numbered over 70,000 people. Sericulture spread and was encouraged by an order in 1713 that only domestic yarn was to be used. Nishinshin specialized only in the most expensive products. Silk production helped the growth of a class of regional entrepreneurs who challenged the Tokugawa Oden, and when foreign trade started in 1859, Japan's silk exports became a major source of profit for the economy, struggling to compete with Western goods. Japan was considered rich because it imported luxury goods like silk from China and textiles from India. Paying for these important with gold and silver strained the economy and led the Tokugawa to put restrictions on the export of precious metals. They also took steps to develop the silk industry in Nishin in Kyoto so as to reduce imports. The silk from Nishinshin came to be known as the best in the world. Other developments such as the increased use of money and the creation of a stock market in rice show that the economy was developing in new ways. Social and intellectual changes, such as the study of ancient Japanese literature, led people to question the degree of Chinese influence and to argue that the essence of being Japanese could be found long before the contact with China in such early classics as The Tale of the Genji and in the Myths of Origin that said that the islands were created by the gods and that the emperor was a descendant of the sun goddess. Tale of the Genji, a fictionalized diary of the Heian court written by Murasaki Shikibu. The tale of the Genji became the central work of fiction in Japanese literature. That period saw the emergence of many women writers like Murasaki, who wrote in the Japanese script while men wrote in the Chinese script, user for education and government. The novel depicts the romantic life of Prince Genji and is a striking picture of the aristocratic atmosphere of the Heian court. It shows the independence that women had in choosing their husbands and living their lives. The Meiji Restoration. Internal discontent concerned with the demands for trade and diplomatic relations in 1853, the USA sent Commodore Matthew Perry (1794 to 1858) to Japan to demand that the government sign a treaty that would permit trade and open diplomatic relations, which it did the following year. Japan lay on the route to China, which the USA saw an major market. Also, their whaling ships in the Pacific needed a place to refuel. At the time, there was only one Western country that traded with Japan, Holland. Perry's arrival had an important effect on Japanese politics. The emperor, who till then had little political power, now re-emerged as an important figure in 1868. A movement forcibly removed the shogun from power and brought the emperor to Edo. This was made the capital and renamed Tokyo, which means eastern capital. Paris ship, a Japanese woodblock print. What the Japanese called a black ship's tar was used to seal the joints of the wood, are depicted in paintings and cartoons showing the strange foreigners and their habits. This became a powerful symbol of Japan's opening. Today, scholars would argue that Japan had not been closer to part in the East Asian trade and had access to knowledge of the wider world both through the Dutch and the Chinese. Commodore Perry, as seen by the Japanese. Attitude contrasts the encounter of the Japanese and the Aztecs with the Europeans. Officials and the people were aware that some European countries were building colonial empires in India and elsewhere. News of China being defeated by the British, the page 244 was flowing in, and this was even depicted in popular plays, so that there was a real fear that Japan might be made a colony. Many scholars and leaders wanted to learn from the new ideas in Europe rather than ignore them as the Chinese were doing. Others sought to exclude the Europeans even while being ready to adopt the new technologies they offered. Some argued for the gradual and limited opening in the outer world. The government launched a policy with the slogan Fukoku Kyohei, rich country, strong army. They realized that they needed to develop their economy and build a strong army. Otherwise, they would face the prospect of being subjugated like India. To do this, they need to create a sense of nationhood among the people and to transform subjects into citizens. At the same time, the new government also worked to build what they called the emperor system. Japanese scholars use this term as the emperor was part of a system along with the bureaucracy and the military that exercised power. Officials were sent to study the European monarchies on which they planned to model their own. The emperor would be treated with reverences as he was considered a direct descendant of the sun goddess, but he was also shown as the leader of westernization. His birthday became a national holiday. He wore Western style military uniforms, and edicts were issued in his name to set up modern institutions. The imperial rescript on education of 1890 argued people to pursue learning, advance public good, and promote common interest. Writing Japanese kanji, Chinese characters read katakana blue, hiragana green. A new school system began to be built from the 1870s. Schooling was compulsory for boys and girls, and by 1910 almost universal. Tuition fees were minimal. The curriculum had been based on Western models, but by the 1870s, while emphasizing modern ideas, stress was placed on loyalty and the study of Japanese history. The Ministry of Education exercised control over the curriculum and in the selection of textbooks as well as in teachers training. What was called moral culture had to be taught, and text argued children to revere their parents, be loyal to the nation, and become good citizens. In Japanese, the Japanese had borrowed their written script from the Chinese in the 6th century. However, since their language is very different from Chinese, they developed two phonetic alphabets, hiragana and katakana. Hiragana is considered feminine because it was used by many women writers in the Heian period, such as Murasaki. It is written using a mixture of Chinese characters and phonetics, so that the main part of the word is written with a character. For instance, is go in going, go would be written with a character and the ing in phonetics. The existence of a phonetic syllabary meant that knowledge is spread from the elites to the wider society relatively quickly. In the 1880s, it was suggested that Japanese develop a completely phonetic script or adopt a European language. Neither was done. To integrate the nation, the Meiji government imposed a new administrative structure by altering old village and human boundaries. The administrative unit had to have revenue advocate to maintain the local schools and health facilities, as well as serve as a recruitment center for the military. All young men over 20 had to do a period of military service. A modern military force was developed. A legal system was set up to regulate the formation of political groups, control the holding of meetings, and impose a strict censorship. In all these measures, the government had to face opposition. The military and the bureaucracy were put under the direct command of the emperor. This meant that even after the constitution was enacted, these two groups remained outside the control of the government. In all these measures, the government faced opposition. The tension between these different ideals, represented by a democratic constitution and a modern army, was to have far reaching consequences. The army pressed for a vigorous foreign policy to acquire more territory. This led to wars with China and Russia, in both of which Japan was the victor. Popular demand for greater democracy was often in opposition to the government's aggressive policies. Japan developed economically and acquired a colonial empire that suppressed the spread of democracy at home and put it in collision with the people it colonized. Take a look at this illustration: workers in a textile factory. Modernizing the economy. Another important part of the Meiji reforms was the modernizing of the economy. Funds were raised by levying an agriculture tax. Japan's first railway line between Tokyo and the port of Yokohama was built in 1870. 7.2 textile machinery was imported from Europe, and foreign techniques were employed to train workers as well as to teach in universities and schools, and Japanese students were sent abroad. In 1872, modern banking institutions were launched. Companies like Mitsubishi and Sumitomo were helped through subsidies and tax benefits to become major shipbuilders, so that Japanese trade was from now on carried in Japanese ships. Zaibatsu larger business organizations controlled by individual families dominated the economy till after the Second World War. The population 35 million in 1872 increased to 55 million in 1920 to reduce population pressure. The government actively encouraged migration first to the northern island of Hokkaido, which had been a largely autonomous area where the indigenous people called the Ainu lived, and then to Hawaii and Brazil, as well as to the growing colonial empire of Japan. Within Japan, there was a shift to towns as industry developed. By 1925, 21% of the population lived in cities. By 1935, this figure had gone up to 32%, 22.5 million. Industrial workers. The number of people in manufacturing increased from 70,000 in 7 lakh in 1872, 4 million in 1913. Most of them worked in units employing less than 5 people and using neither machinery nor electrical power. Over half of those employed in modern factories were women, and it was women who organized the first modern strike in 1886. After 1900, the number of men began to increase, but only in the 1930s did male workers begin to outnumber women. The series of factories also began to increase. Factories employing more than 100 workers, just over 1000 in 1909, jumped to over 2000 by 1920 and 4000 by the 1930s. Yet even in 1940 there were over 550,000 workshops that employed less than 5 employees. They sustained the family centered ideology just as nationalism was sustained by a stronger patriarchal system under an emperor who was like a family patriarch. The rapid and unregulated growth of industry and the demand for natural resources such as timber led to environmental destructions. Tanaka Shaho, elected to the first House of Representatives, launched the first agitation against industrial pollution in 1897 with 800 villages in a mass protest forcing the government to take action. Tanaka Shaho, 1841 to 1913, the self-taught son of a farmer, rose to become a major political figure. He participated in the popular rights movement in the 1880s, a movement demanding constitutional government. He was elected member to the first day term. He believed that ordinary people should not be sacrificed for industrial progress. The Asia mine was polluting the Watras River, running 100 square miles of farmland and affecting a thousand families. The agitation forced the company to take pollution control measures so that by 1904 harvests were normal. Young people being exhorted to fight for the nation. A magazine covers student soldiers' photographs. Aggressive nationalism. The Meiji construction was based on a restricted franchise and created a tight. The Japanese used the German word for parliament because of the influence of German legal ideas with the limited powers. The leaders who brought about the imperial restoration continued to exercise power and even established political parties. Between 1918 and 1931, popularly elected prime minister formed cabinets. Thereafter, they lost power to national unity cabinets formed across party lines. The emperor was the commander of the forces, and from 1890 this was interpreted to mean that the army and the navy had independent control. In 1899, the prime minister ordered that only serving generals and admirals could become minister. The strength of the military, together with the expansion of Japan's colonial empire, was connected with the fear that Japan was at the mercy of the Western powers. This fear was used to silence opposition to military expansion and to higher taxes to fund the armed forces. Westernization and tradition. Successive generations of Japanese intellectuals had different views on Japan relations with other countries. To some, the USA and Western European countries were at the highest point of civilization to which Japan aspired. Fukushima Yukichi, a leading Meiji intellectual, expressed it this way, saying that Japan must expel Asia. He meant that Japan must shed its Asian characteristics and become part of the West. Fukushima Yukichi, 1835 to 1901, born an impoverished samurai family, he studied in Nagasaki and Osaka, learning Dutch and Western sciences and later English. In 1860, he went as a translator for the first Japanese embassy to the USA. This provided material for a book on the West written not in the classical but in the spoken style that became extremely popular. He established a school that is today the Keio University. He was one of the core members of the Meroksha, a society to promote Western learning. In the encouragement to learning, Gakuman no Susume 1872 to 76, he was very critical of Japanese knowledge. All that Japan has to be proud of is, is its scenery. He advocated not just modern factories and institutions but the cultural essentials of the West, the spirit of civilization. With this spirit, it would be possible to build a new citizen. His principles was heaven did not create men above men, nor send men below men. The next generation questioned this total acceptance of Western ideas and argued that national pride be built on indigenous values. The philosopher Mikhail Sesure, 1860 to 1945, argued that each nation must develop its special talents in the interest of world civilization. To devote oneself to one's country is to devote oneself of the world. By contrast, many intellectuals were attracted to Western liberalism and wanted a Japan based not on the military but on democracy. Yuki Emori, 1857 to 1892, a leader of the popular rights movement, was demanding constitutional government, admired the French Revolution doctrine of the natural rights of man and of popular sovereignty, and spoke for a liberal education that would develop each individual. Freedom is more precious than order. Others even advocated voting rights for women. This pressure led the government to announce a constitution. The novelty of electrical goods, a rice cooker, and American grill, a toaster. Daily life. Japan's transformation into a modern society can be seen also in the changes in everyday life. The patriarchal household system compromised many generations living together under the control of the head of the house. But as more people became affluent, new ideas of the family spread. The new homo, as the Japanese say, using the English word, was that of the nuclear family where husband and wife lived as a breadwinner and homemaker. This new concept of domesticity in the turn generated demands for new types of domestic goods, new types of family entertainments, and new forms of housing. In the 1920s, construction companies made cheap housing available for a down payment of 20 yen and a monthly installment of 12 yen for 10 years. This is a time when the salary of a bank employee, a person with higher education, was 40 yen per month. Car Club, Mogo, an abbreviation for modern girl, it represented the coming together in the 20th century of ideas of gender equality, a Compolitan culture, and a developed economy. The new middle class families enjoyed new forms of travel and entertainment. Transport in cities improved with electrical trams, public parks were opened from 1878 and department stores began to be built. In Tokyo, the uh, Jinja became a fashionable area for Jinpura, a word coming Jinja and Barpura walking aimlessly. The first radio stations opened in 1925. Matosi Sumoko, an actress, became a national star with her portrait of women's carpool. Nora in the Norwegian writer Ibsen's A Dollhouse moving began to be made in 1899, and soon there was a dozen companies making hundreds of films. The period was one of great vitality and the questioning of traditional norms of social and political behavior. Women's carpool. Activity 2. Would you agree with Nishitanich's definition of modern? Overcoming modernity, state-centered nationalism found full expression in the 1930s and 1940s as Japan launched wars to extend its empire in China and other parts of Asia, a war that merged into the Second World War after Japan attacked the USA at Pearl Harbor. This period saw greater controls on society, the repression and imprisonment of dissidents, as well as the formation of patriotic societies, many of them women's organizations to support the war. An influential symposium on overcoming modernity in 1943 debated the dilemma facing Japan of how to combat the West while being modern. A musician, Morai Saburo, posed the questions of how to rescue music from the art of sensory stimulation and restore it to an art of the spirit. He was not rejecting Western music but trying to find a way that went beyond merely rewriting or playing Japanese music on Western instruments. The philosopher Nishitani Keiji defined modern as the unity of three streams of Western thought: the Renaissance, the Protestant Reformation, and the rise of natural sciences. He argued that Japan's moral energy, a term taken from the German philosopher Ranke, and helped it to escape colonization, and it was its duty to establish a new world order, a greater East Asia. For this aim, new vision that would integrate science and religion was necessary. After defeat, re emerging as a global economic power, Japan's attempt to carve out a colonial empire ended with its defeat by the Allied forces. It has been argued that nuclear bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki to shorten the war. But others think the immense destruction and suffering it caused were unnecessary under the US led occupation 1945 to 47. Japan was demilitarized and a new constitution introduced. This had Article 9, the so called no war clause that renounces the use of war as an instrument of state policy, agrarian reforms, the re-establishment of trade unions, and an attempt to dismantle the jaibatus or large monopoly houses that dominated the Japanese economy were also carried out. Political parties were revived, and the first post war elections held in 1946 where women voted for the first time. The rapid rebuilding of the Japanese economy after its shattering defeat was called a post war miracle, but it was more than that. It was firmly rooted in its long history. The constitution was demonstrated only now, but the Japanese had a historic tradition of popular struggles and intellectual engagement with how to broaden political participation. The social cohesion of the pre-war years was strengthened, allowing for a close working of the government, bureaucracy, and industry. US support, as well as the demand created by the Korean and the Vietnam Sea wars, also helped the Japanese economy. Take a look at these illustrations. Tokyo before and after the Second World War. The 1964 Olympics held in Tokyo marked a symbolic coming of age in much the same way the network of high-speed Shinkansen or bullet trains started in 1964, which ran at 200 miles per hour. Now it is 300 miles per hour. Have come to represent the ability of the Japanese to use advanced technologies to produce better and cheaper goods. The 1960s saw the growth of civil society movements as industrialization had been pushed with utter disregard to its effect on health and the environment. Cadmium poisoning, which led to a painful disease, was an early indicator, followed by mercury poisoning in Minamata in the 1960s and problems caused by air pollution in the early 1970s. Grassroots pressure groups began to demand recognition of these problems as well as compensations for the victims. Government action and new legal regulations helped to improve conditions. From the mid 1980s, there had been an increasing decline in interest in environmental issues as Japan enacted some of the strictest environmental controls in the world. Today, as a developed country, it faces the challenge of using its political and technological capabilities to maintain its position as a leading world power. China, the modern China of China has revolved around the questions of how to regain sovereignty and the humiliation of foreign occupation and bring about equality and development. Chinese debates were marked by the views of three groups: the early reformers such as Can Yu 1858 1927 or Liang Qiuqiu 1873 to 1929 tried to use traditional ideas in new and different ways to meet the challenges posed by the West. Second, Republican revolutionaries such as Sun Yat-sen, the first president of the republic, were inspired by ideas from Japan and the West. The third, the Communist Party of China (CCP) wanted to end age-old inequalities and drive out the foreigners. The beginning of modern China can be traced to its first encounters with the West in the 16th and 17th centuries, when Jesuit missionaries introduced Western sciences such as astronomy and mathematics. Limited though its immediate impact was, it set in motion events that gathered momentum in the 19th century when Britain used force to expand its lucrative trade in opium, leading to the First Opium War 1839 to 42. This undermined the ruling Qing dynasty and strengthened demands for reform and change. Take a look at this illustration. The Opium War, a European painting. Activity 3. Does this painting give you a clear sense of the significance of the Opium War? The opium trade. The demand for Chinese goods such as tea, silk, and porcelain created a serious balance of trade problem. Western goods did not find a market in China, so payment had to be in silver. The East India Company found a new option, opium, which grew in India. They sold the opium in China and gave the silver that they earned to company agents in Canton in return for letters of credit. The company used the silver to buy tea, silk, and porcelain to sell in Britain. This was the triangular trade between Britain, India, and China. King reformers such as Kang Youwei and Liang Qiuqiu realized the need to strengthen the system and initiated policies to build a modern administrative system, a new army, and an educational system, and set up local assemblies to establish constitutional government. They saw the need to protect China from colonization. The, the negative example of colonized countries worked powerfully on Chinese thinkers. The partition of Poland in the 18th century was a much discussed example. So much so that by the late 1890s it came to be used as a verb to Poland as a Bolenwo. India was another such example. In 1903, the thinker Liang Qichao, who believed that only by making people aware that China was a nation would they be able to resist the West, wrote that India was a country that was destroyed by a non-country, that is the East India Company. He criticized Indians for being cruel to their own people and subservient to the British. Such arguments carried a powerful appeal as ordinary Chinese could see that the British used Indian soldiers in their wars on China. Above all, many felt that the traditional ways of thinking had to be changed. Confucianism developed from the teachings of Confucius 551 to 479 BCE, and his disciples was concerned with good conduct, practical wisdom, and prosperous social relationship. It influenced the Chinese attitude toward life, provided social standards, and laid the basics for political theories and institutions. It was not seen as a major barrier to new ideas and institutions. To train people in modern subjects, students were sent to study in Japan, Britain, and France and bring back new ideas. Many Chinese students went to Japan in the 1890s. They not only brought back new ideas but many became leading Republicans. The Chinese borrowed even Japanese translations of European words such as justice, rights, and revolution because they used the same ideographic script, a reversal of the traditional relationship. In 1905, just after the Russo-Japanese War, a war fought on Chinese soil and over Chinese territory, the centuries-old Chinese examination system that gave candidates entry into the elite ruling class was abolished. The examination system entered to the elite ruling class about 1.1 million till 1850 had been largely through an examination. This required writing an eight-legged essay, Pa Kuven, in classical Chinese in a prescribed form. The examination was held twice every 3 years at different levels, and of those allowed to sit, only 1 to 2% passed the first level, usually by the age of 24, to become what was called beautiful talent at any given time. Before 1850, there were about 5,26,869 civil and 21 lakh 2,000 2 lakh 12,330 military provincial Shenyang degree holders in the whole country. Since there were only 27,000 official positions, many lower level degree holders did not have jobs. The examination acted as a barrier to the development of science and technology, as it demanded only literal, literary skills. In 1905, it was abolished as it was based on skills in classical Chinese learning that had it was felt no relevance for the modern world. Establishing the republic, the Manchu Empire was overthrown and a republic established in 1911 under Sun Yat-sen, 1866 to 1925, who is unanimously regarded as the founder of modern China. He came from a poor family and studied in missionary schools, where he was introduced to democracy and Christianity. He studied medicine but was greatly concerned about the fate of China. His program was called the Three Principles: San Min, San Min Chui. These were nationalism. This meant overthrowing the Manchu, who were seen as a foreign dynasty, as well as the other foreign imperialistic democracy, or establishing democratic government and socialism, regulating capital and acquiring land holdings. The social and political situation continued to be unstable. On 4th May 1919, an energy demonstration was held in Beijing to protest against the decisions of the post-war peace conference. Despite being an ally of the victor side led by Britain, China did not get back the territory seized from it. The protest became a movement. It galvanized a whole generation to attack tradition and to called for saving China through modern science, democracy, and nationalism. Revoluntaries called for driving out the foreigners who were controlling the country's resources to remove inequalities and reduce poverty. They advocated reforms such as the use of simple language and writing, abolishing the practice of food binding and the subordinate of women, equality in marriage and economic development to end poverty. After the Republican Revolution, the country entered a period of turmoil. The Kuomintang, the National People's Party, and the CCP emerged as major forces striving to unite the country and bring stability. Sun Yat-sen's ideas became the basics of the political philosophy of the Kuomintang. They identified the four great needs as clothing, food, housing, and transportation. After the death of Sun Chiang Kai, Shek 1887 to 1975 emerged as the leader of the Kuomintang as he launched a military campaign to control the warlords, regional leaders who has usurped authority, and to eliminate the communist he advocated a secular and rational this worldly Confucianism, but also sought to militarize the nation, the people, he said, but develop a habit and instinct for unified behavior. He encouraged women to cultivate the four virtues of chastity, appearance, speech, and work, and recognize their role as confined to the household. Even the length of hemlines was prescribed. The Kuomintang's social base was in urban areas. Industrial growth was slow and limited. In cities such as Shanghai, which became the centers of modern growth by 1919, an industrial working class had appeared, numbering 5 lakh. Of these, however, only a small percentage were employed in modern industries such as shipbuilding. Most were petty urbanites, Zio Shimin, traders and shopkeepers, urban workers, particularly women, earned very low wages. Working hours were long and conditions of work bad. As individualism increased, there was a growing concern with women's rights, ways to build the family, and discussions about love and romance. Social and cultural change was helped along by the spread of schools and universities. Speaking universities was established in 1902. Journalism flourished, reflecting the growing attraction of this new thing. The Popular Life Weekly, edited by Geo Taufin 1895 to 1944, is a representative of this new trend. It introduces readers to new ideas as well as to leaders such as Mahatma Gandhi and Kemal Atatürk, the modernist leader of Turkey. Its circulation increased rapidly from just 2000 in 1926 to a massive 2 lakh copies in 1933. Activity 4. How does a sense of discrimination unite people? The story of rising prices. Take a look at this illustrations. Oxen 1937, pig 1939, 1941 sack of flour, 1943 hen, eggs 1945, piece of coal 1947, sheet of paper 1949. Shanghai in 1935, Bukleon, a black American trumpet player in Shanghai with his jazz orchestra, lived the life of the privileged expatriates, but he was black and once some white Americans assaulted him and his orchestra members and threw them out from the hotel they played in. Thus, though American, he had a greater sympathy for the plight of the Chinese, being himself a victim of racial discrimination. Of the fight with white Americans, where they emerged victorious, he writes, the Chinese onlookers treated us like we had done something they always wanted to do and followed us all the way home, cheering us like a winning football team. On the poverty and hard life of the Chinese, Clayton writes, I would see sometimes 20 or 30 coolies pulling a big heavy cart that in America would be pulled by a truck or horses. These people seemed to be nothing but human heroes, and all they would get at the end of the day was just enough to get a couple of bowls of rice and a place to sleep. I don't know how they did it. Rickshaw puller, rickshaw puller, woodcut by Langia, the novel Rickshawala by Laoshi, 1936, became a classic. The government, despite its attempts to unite the country, failed because of its narrow social base and limited political vision. A major plank in Sun Yat-sen's program regulating capital and acquiring land was never carried out because the party ignored the peasantry and the rising social inequalities. It sought to impose military order rather than address the problems faced by the people. Timeline: Japan, China. 1603, Tokugawa Ieyasu establishes the Edo shogunate. 1644 to 1911, Qing dynasty. 1630, Japan closed country to Western powers except for restricted trade with the Dutch. Japan. 1854, Japan and the USA conclude the Treaty of Peace, ending Japan's secularism. 1868, restoration of Meiji. 1872, compulsory education system, first railway line between Tokyo and Yokohama. 1889, Meiji Constitution enacted. 1894 to 95, war between Japan and China. 1904 to 5, war between Japan and Russia. 1910, Korea annexed a colony till 1945. 1914 to 18, First World War. 1925, universal male suffrage. 1931, Japan's invasion of China. 1941 to 45, the Pacific War. 1945, atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. 1946 to 52, US-led occupation of Japan, reforms to democratize and demilitarized Japan. 1956, Japan becomes a member of the United Nations. 1964, Olympic Games in Tokyo, the first time in Asia. China. 1644 to 1911, Qing dynasty. 1839 to 60, to Opium Wars. 1912, Sun Yat-sen founds Kuomintang. 1919, May 4th movement. 1921, CCP founded. 1926 to 49, civil wars in China. 1934, Long March. 1945, empty. 1949, People's Republic of China. Chiang Kai-shek founds Republic of China in Taiwan. 1962, China attacks India over border dispute. 1966, Cultural Revolution. 1976, death of Mao Zedong and Zhou Enlai. 1997, Hong Kong returned to China by Britain. The rise of Communist Party of China. When the Japanese invaded China in 1937, the Kuomintang retreated. The long and exhausting war weakened China. Prices rose 30% per month between 1945 and 1949 and utterly destroyed the lives of ordinary people. Rural China faced two crises: once ecological with soil exhaustion, deforestation and floods, and the second a socio-economic one caused by exploitative land tenure systems, indebtedness, primitive technology and poor communications. The CCP had been founded in 1921. Soon after the Russian Revolution, the Russian success exercised a powerful influence around the world, and leaders such as Lenin and Trotsky went on to establish the Comintern, or the Third International, in March 1918 to help bring about a world government that would end exploitation. The Comintern and the Soviet Union supported communist parties around the world, but they worked within the traditional Marxist understanding that revolution would be brought about by the working class in cities. Its initial appeal across national boundaries was immense, but it soon became a tool for Soviet interest and was dissolved in 1943 Mao Zedong, 1893 to 1976, who emerged as a major CCP leader, took a different path by basing his revolutionary program on the peasantry. His success made the CCP a powerful political force that ultimately won against the Kuomintang. Mao Zedong's radical approach can be seen in Jingixi in the mountains where they camped from 1928 to 1934, secure from Kuomintang attacks, a strong peasants' council. Soviet force organized united through confiscation, confiscation and redistribution of land. Mao, unlike other leaders, stressed the need for an independent government and army. He had become aware of women's problem and supported the emergence of rural women's association, promulgated a new marriage law that forbade arranged marriages, stopped purchase or sale of marriage contracts and simplified divorce. In a survey in 1930 in Zhengzhou, Xingwu Miao Zedong looked at everyday commodities such as salt and soybeans at the relative strengths of local organizations, at petty traders and craftsmen, iron smiths and prostitutes, and the strength of religious organization to examine the different levels of exploitation. He gathered he gathered statistics of the numbers of peasants who had sold their children and found out what price they received. Boys were sold for 100 to 200 yuan, but there were no instances of the sale of girls because the need was for hard labor, not sexual exploitation. It was on the basics of these studies that he advocated ways of solving social problems. Take a look at map to the Long March. The Kuomintang blockade of communist Soviet forces the party to seek another base. This led them to go on what came to be called the Long March. 1934 to 35, 6,000 grueling and difficult miles to Shanxi. Shanxi. Here in their new base in Yan'an, they further developed their program to end warlordism, carry out land reforms, and fight foreign imperialism. This won them a strong social base in the difficult years of the war. The communists and the Kuomintang worked together, but after the end of the war, the communists established themselves in power and the Kuomintang was defeated. Take a look at illustration photograph of soldiers on the Long March reclaiming wasteland 1941. This term was used by Karl Marx to stress that the working class would replace the repressive government of the propertied class with a voluntary government and not a dictatorship in the current sense. Establishing the new democracy in 1949 to 65. The People's Republic of China government was established in 1949. It was based on the principles of the new democracy and alliances of all social classes, unlike the dictatorship of the proletariat that the Soviet Union said it had established. Critical areas of the economy were put under government control, and private enterprise and private ownership of land were gradually ended. This program lasted till 1953 when the government declared that it would launch a program of socialist transformation. The Great Leap Forward movement launched in 1958 was a policy to galvanize the country to industrialize rapidly. People were encouraged to set up steel furnaces in their backyards. In the rural areas, people's communes where land would be collectively owned and cultivated were started. By 1958, there were 26,000 communes covering 98% of the farm population. Mao was able to mobilize the masses to attain the goal set by the party. His concern was with creating a socialist man who, who would have five laws: fatherland, people, labor, science, and public property. Mass organization was created for farmers, women, students, and other groups. For instance, the All China Democratic Women's Federation had 76 million members. The All China Students Federation 3.29 million members. The objects and methods did not appeal to everyone in the party. In 1953 to 54, some were urging for more attention to industrial organization and economic growth. Liu Shaoqi 1896 to 1969 and Deng Xiaoping 1904 to 97 tried to modify the commune system as it was not working efficiently. The steel producer in the backyard furnaces was unusable industrially. Conflicting visions 1965 to 78. The conflict between the Maoist wanting to create a socialist man and those who objected to his emphasis on ideology rather than expertise culminated in Mao launching the Great Proletarian Cultural Revolution in 1965 to counter his critics. The Red Guards, mainly students, and the army was used for a campaign against old culture, old customs, and old habits. Students and professionals were sent to the countryside to learn from the masses. Ideology, being communism, was more important than having professional knowledge. Denunciations and slogans replaced rational debate. The Cultural Revolution became a period of turmoil, weakened the party, and severely disrupted the economy and educational system. From the late 1960s, the tide began to turn. In 1975, the party once again laid emphasis on greater social discipline and the need to build an industrial economy so that China could become a power before the end of the century. Reforms from 1978. The Cultural Revolution was followed by a process of political maneuvering. Deng Xiaoping kept party control strong while introducing a socialist market economy. In 1978, the party declared its goal as the four modernizations to develop science, industry, agriculture, defense. Debate was allowed as long as the party was not questioned. In this new and liberating climate, as at the time of the May 4th movement 60 years earlier, there was an existing explosion of new ideas. On 5th December 1978, a wall poster, the fifth modernization, proclaimed that without democracy, the other modernization would come to nothing. It went on to criticize the CCP for not solving the problem of poverty or ending sexual exploitation, even citing cases of such abuse from within the party. Take a look at this illustration. After the 1978 reforms, the Chinese were able to buy consumer goods freely. These demands were suppressed, but in 1989, on the 17th anniversary of the May 4th movement, many intellectuals called for a greater openness and an end to ossified dogmas. So Shaoqi, student demonstrators at Titanium Square in Beijing were brutally repressed. This was strongly condemned around the world. The post reform period has seen the emergence of debates on ways to develop China. The dominant view supported by the party is based on strong political control, economical liberalization, and integration into the world market. Critics argue that increasing inequalities between social groups, between regions, and between men and women are creating social tensions and question the heavy emphasis on the market. Finally, there is a growing revival of earlier so-called traditional ideas of Confucianism and arguments that China can build a modern society following its own traditions rather than simply copying the West. The story of Taiwan. Chiang Kai-shek, defeated by the CCP, fled in 1949 to Taiwan with over US $300 million. in gold reservoirs and crates of priceless art treasure and established the Republic of China. Taiwan had been a Japanese colony since the Chinese ceded it after the 1894-95 war with Japan. The Cairo Declaration 1943 and the Potsdam Proclamation 1949 restored sovereignty to China. Massive demonstrations in February 1947 had led the GMD to brutally kill a whole generation of leading figures. The GMD under Chiang Kai shek went on to establish a repressive government, forbidding free speech and political opposition and excluding the local population from positions of power. However, they carried out land reforms that increased agricultural productivity and modernized the economy so that by 1973 Taiwan had a GNP second only to that of Japan in Asia. The economy, largely dependent on trade, has been steadily growing, but what is important is that the gap between the rich and poor has been steadily declining. Even more dramatic has been the transformation of Taiwan into a democracy. It began slowly after the death of Chiang in 1975 and grew in momentum when martial law was lifted in 1987 and opposition parties were legally permitted. The first free elections began the process of bringing local Taiwanese to power. Diplomatically, most countries have only trade missions in Taiwan. Take a look at this illustration. Koreans celebrate their independence from Japan in 1945. Full diplomatic relations and embassies are not possible as Taiwan is considered to be part of China. The question of reunification with the mainland remains a contentious issue, but cross-strait relations that is between Taiwan and China have been improving, and Taiwan's trade and investments in the mainland are massive, and travel has also become easier. China may be willing to tolerate a semi-autonomous Taiwan as long as it gives up any move to seek independence. The story of Korea beings of modernization during the late 19th century, Korea's Joseon dynasty 1392 to 1210 faced internal political and social strife and increasing foreign pressure from China, Japan, and the West. Amidst this, Korea implemented modernization reforms in its governmental structures, diplomatic relations, infrastructure, and society. After decades of political interference, the Imperial Japan annexed Korea as its colony in 1910, bringing the over 500-year-long Joseon dynasty to its end. However, the Korean people were angry about Japan's superstition of their culture and forced assimilation. Desiring independence, Koreans around the country demonstrated against the colonial rule, set up a provincial government, and sent delegations to appeal to foreign leaders at international meetings such as the Cairo, Yalta, and Potsdam conferences. The Japanese colonial rule ended after 35 years in August 1945 with Japan's defeat in the World War II. However, it was the continued efforts of independence activists both inside and outside Korea that ensured Korea's independence after Japan's defeat. Following liberation, the Korean peninsula was temporarily divided along the 38th parallel with the Soviets managing the North and the UN managing the South, even as the nations worked to disband the Japanese forces in the region. However, this division became permanent as separate governments were established in both the North and the South in 1948. A post-war nation, in June 1950, the Korean War broke out with South Korea receiving support from the US-led United Nations forces and North Korea receiving support from Communist China. It developed into a vintage proxy war of the Cold War era. In July 1953, after 3 years, the war ended in an armistice agreement. Korea remained divided. The Korean War has caused not only Savings rate helped to develop the heavy industrial sector, while remittances from South Korean workers overseas also contributed to the overall economic development. Economic growth was the foundation of the Park administration long term power. Park revised the constitution so that he could run for the third term and was re-elected in 1971. In October 1972, Park declared and implemented the Yusin constitution, which made permanent presidency possible. Under the Yusin constitution, the president had complete authority over legislation, jurisdiction, and administration, and also had a constitutional right to repeal any law as the emergency measure. As the president was invested with absolute authority, the progress of democracy was temporarily suspended in pursuit of economic development. However, the second oil crisis in 1979 acted as a hindrance to the economic policy, which had over-invested in the heavy chemical industry. Moreover, students, scholars, and the opposition continually demonstrated against the Eurasian Constitution as the Park administration invocation of emergency measures and supersession brought about political instability amidst with this economic crisis and political instability. The Park administration came to an end in October 1979 when Park Chung-hee was assassinated. Take a look at this illustration. Demonstrators during the June democracy movement of 1987 continued economic growth and calls for democratization. The desire for democratization grew upon the death of Park Chung-hee, but in December 1979, another military coup, this time led by Chun Do-hwan, was staged in May 1980. Various protests in key cities around the nation were held by students and citizens demanding democracy in the face of Chun's military faction. The military faction suppressed the democracy movement by implementing material law across the country. In the city of Guangzhou, in particular, students and citizens did not back down and demanded that martial law be ended. This is known as the Jiangsu democratization movement. However, Chun's military faction suppressed the protests for democratization. Later that year, Chun became the president through an indirect election under the Yusin constitution. The administration strengthened the supervision of democratization influences in order to stabilize the regime. Due in part to the international economic boom, the Chung administration was able to raise economic growth from 1.7% in 1980 to 13.2% in percent by 1983, while also significantly lowering inflation. Economic development had led to urbanization, improved education levels, and media advancements. As a result, citizen self-awareness about political rights grew, leading to demands for a constitutional amendment to allow direct election of the president. In May 1987, the Chun administration minimization of inquiries into the death by torture of a university student was made known, making citizens being participate in a large-scale struggle for demonstration. The June democracy movement that followed had participation not only by students but the middle class as well. Owing to these efforts, the Chen administration was forced to make a revision to the constitution allowing direct elections. A new chapter of Korean democracy thus began. Korean democracy and the IMF crisis. As per the new constitution, the first direct election since 1971 was held in December 1987, but due to the opposition party's failure to unite a fellow military leader of Cho's military faction, Roh Tae-woon was elected. However, Korea continued along the path of democracy in 1990. Long-time opposition leader Kim Young-sam compromised with Roh's party to create a large ruling party. In December 1992, Kim, a civilian, was elected the president after decades of military rule. While his election and the consequent dissolution of authoritarian military power, democracy made its forward march. Under the export driven policy of the new administration, several companies grew to global prominence, which continued until the early 1990s with governmental support. Korean conglomerates invested in capital intensive heavy and chemical industries as well as electronic industries, while the government continued to focus on building industrial and social infrastructure. Take a look at this image. Present day downtown Seoul at night. Meanwhile, under increasing neoliberal pressure to open its market, the Kim administration joined the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development (OECD) in 1996 and attempted to strengthen Korea's international competitiveness. But amidst increasing trade deficits, poor management by financial institutions, reckless business operations by conglomerates, and more, Korea was met with a foreign currency crisis in 1997. The crisis was dealt with through emergence financial support provided by the International Monetary Fund (IMF). Simultaneous efforts were also made to improve the country's economic constitution as the citizens actively contributed towards foreign loan repayment through the gold collection movement. In December 1997, long-time opposition party leader Kim Dae-jung was elected the president for the first time in Korea, marking a peaceful transfer of power. The second peaceful transfer of power came in 2008 when conservative Lee Myung-pak was elected as the president following the progressive Roh Moo-hyun administration. In 2012, conservative Park Geun-hye was elected as the first female president. At the beginning of her presidency, she gained support due to the political legacy of her father, Park Chung-hee. But in October 2016, as it came to light that she had let a friend secretary manage government affairs, she met with nationwide protests, leading to her impeachment and removal from office in March 2007. March 2017. In May 2017, Moon Jae-in was elected the president in a peaceful transfer of power for the third time. The candlelight protests of 2016, led by citizens who peacefully demonstrated for the president's resignation with the boundaries of democratic law and systems, show the maturity of the Korean democracy. The Korean democracy owes a debt to economic development, but it was the citizens' elevated political awareness to encourage republicanism in the country, which played the lead role in advancing it to whether it is today. Two roads to modernization. Industrial societies, far from becoming like each other, have found their own paths to becoming modern. The histories of Japan and China, along with the stories of Taiwan and Korea, show how different historical conditions led them on widely divergent paths to building independent and modern nations. Japan was successful in retaining its independence and using traditional skills and practices in new ways. However, its elite driven modernization generated an aggressive nationalism helped to sustain a repressive regime that stifled dissent and demands for democracy and established a colonial empire that left a legacy of hatred in the region as well as disordered internal developments. Japan's program of modernization was carried out in an environment dominated by Western imperial powers, while it imitated them, it also attempted to find its own solutions. Japanese nationalism was marked by these different compulsions, while many Japanese hoped to liberate Asia from Western domination. For others, these ideas justified building an empire. It is important to note that the transformation of social and political institutions and daily life was not just a question of reviving traditions new and different ways. For instance, the Meiji school system, modeled on European and American practices, introduced new subjects, but the curriculum's main object was to make loyal citizens. A course on morals that stressed loyalty to the emperor was compulsory. Similarly, changes in the family or in daily life show how foreign and indigenous ideas were brought together to create something new. The Chinese path to modernization was very different. Foreign imperialism, both the Western and Japanese, combined with a hesitant and unsure Qing dynasty to weaken government control and set the stage for a breakdown of political and social order, leading to immense misery for most of the people. Warlordism, banditry, and civil war extracted a heavy toll on human lives, as did the savagery of the Japanese invasion. Natural disasters added to this burden. The 19th and 12th centuries saw a rejection of traditions and a search for ways to build national unity and strength. The CCP and its supporters fought to put an end to tradition, which they saw as keeping the masses in poverty, the women subjugated, and the country undeveloped, while calling for power to the people. It built a highly centralized state. The success of the communist program promised hope, but its repressive political system turned the ideals of liberation and equality into slogans to manipulate the people. Yet it did remove centuries old inequalities, spread education, and raise consciousness among the people. The party has now carried out market reforms and had been successful in making China economically powerful, but its political system continues to be tightly controlled. The society now faces growing inequalities as well as a revival of a tradition long suppressed. This new system, this new situation again possesses the question of how China can develop while retaining its heritage. Exercises. Answer in brief. Question number one. What were the major developments before the Meiji restoration that made it possible for Japan to modernize rapidly? Question number two. Discuss how daily life was transformed as Japan developed. Question number three. How did the Qing dynasty try and met the challenge posed by the Western powers? Question number four. What were the Sun Yat-sen's three principles? Question number five. How did Korea deal with the foreign currency crisis in 1997? Answers in a short essay. Question number six. Did Japan's policy of rapid industrialization lead to wars with its neighbors and destruction of an environment? Do you think that Mao Zedong and the Communist Party of China were successful in liberating China and laying the basics for its current success? Question number 8. Did economic growth in South Korea contribute to its democratization? Conclusion. This book on themes of world history has taken you across vast stretches of time, ancient, medieval, modern. It has focused on some of the more important, some of the more prominent themes of human evolution and development. Each section has covered the following increasingly foreshortened periods. That is one section 1, 600 to 400 BC, 2 BC 400 to 1300 CE, 3 800 to 1700 CE, 4 1700 to 2000 CE. Although historians tend to specialize in ancient, medieval, and modern periods, the historians' crafts display certain common features and predicaments. We have attempted to nounce the distinction between ancient, medieval, and modern in order to convey a holistic idea of how history is written and discussed, as also to equip you with an overall understanding of human history that goes well beyond our modern roots. The, would, the book would have allowed you a glimpse into the history of Africa, Western Central Asia, East Asia, Australia, North and South America, and Europe, including the United Kingdom. It would have familiarized you with what may be called the case study method. Instead of burdening you with enormous detail about the history of all these places, we felt it would be better to examine key illustrations of certain phenomena in detail. World history can be written in many ways. One of these, perhaps the oldest, is to focus on contact between peoples to stress the interconnections of cultures and civilization and to explore the multifarious dimensions of world historical change. An alternative is to identify relatively contained to expanding regions of economic exchange that sustain certain forms of culture and power. A third method specifies differences in the historical experience of nations and regions to highlight their distinctive characteristics. You would have found traces of each of these approaches in the book, but differences between societies and individuals go hand in hand with similarities. Interlinkages, connections, and similarities among human communities always existed. The interplay of the global and the local, the world in a grain of sand, the mainstream and the marginal, the general and the specific, which you would have gleaned from this book, are a fascinating aspect of the study of history. Our account began from scattered settlements in Africa, Asia, and Europe. From there, we moved on to city life in Mesopotamia. Early empires were created around cities in Mesopotamia. Egypt, China, Persia, and India, empires of greater extent followed them. The Greek, Macedonia, Roman, Arab, and from the 1200s, the Mongol. Trading operations, technology, and government were often highly intricate in these empires. Very often, they were based on effective use of a written language. A new era in human history took shape as a consequence of a combination of technology and organization changes that occurred in Western Europe in the middle of the second millennium CE. From the 1400 onwards, these were linked to the Renaissance or rebirth of a civilization whose primary impact was felt in the cities of northern Italy, but whose influence spread quickly over Europe. This Renaissance was the product of the region city life and of extensive interactions by instructions with Byzantium and the Muslim world of the Mediterranean. Over time, ideas and discoveries were carried to the Americas by explorers and conquerors in the 16th century CE. Some of these notions were carried later to Japan, India, and elsewhere as well. European preeminence in global trade, politics, and culture did not come at this time. It was to be it was to be the feature of the 18th and 19th centuries when the Industrial Revolution took place in Britain and spread to Europe. Britain, France, and Germany were able to create a system of colonial control over parts of Africa and Asia, systems more intense and powerful than those of earlier empires. By the mid 12th century, by the mid 20th century, the technology, economic life, and culture that had once made European states powerful had been reworked in the rest of the world to create the foundations of modern life. You must have noticed passages quoted in the various chapters of the book. Many of these are extracts for what historians call primarily sources. Scholars construct history from such materials, drawing their facts from them. They critically evaluate these materials and are attentive to their ambiguities, difference, different historians may use a given source material to advance vastly different, even contradictory arguments about historical phenomena. As with the other human sciences, history can be made to speak to us in varied voices. This is because of the intricate relationship between the historian's reasoning and historical facts. In your final year at school, you will be studying aspects of Indian or South Asian history from Harappan times to the making of modern India's constitution. Again, the emphasis will be on a judicious mix of political, economic, social, and cultural history, inviting you to engage with chosen themes through the case study method. We hope these books will help you formulate your own answers to so many questions. Above all, to the questions, why study history? Do you know the gifted medievalist Mark Bloch began his book, The Historian's Craft, written in the trenches during the Second World War, by recalling a young boy's question, "Tell me, Daddy, what is the use of history?" Thank you.